So we'll go ahead and begin, and I'd like to welcome everyone. This is Recovery Dharma. Friends, my name is Julia. I'm one of the facilitators of this beautiful community, and I'd like to share with you as a way to set the intention of our practice with a sentiment of metta. This is a little painting I made, and these little droplets right here are made with melted crayon. For any of you who are artsy and want another modality and you have, leftover crayons, go ahead and melt them. They're fun. This one reads, "May you celebrate your ebb and flow. May you celebrate your ebb and flow." Friends, I'd like to invite you to assume a posture in the body that has a lot of ease today. If you're sitting in a chair, you can lean back a little bit. If your body is asking to lie down, please do. If you're sitting on a cushion, sit in a way that the body can feel sturdy and upright. And allow your body the pleasant experience of simply breathing with awareness. There's some intentionality for the breath and to really accentuate the ebb and flow of the breath, the expansion on the inhalation and the contraction on the exhalation. It's a wonderful place to concentrate one's attention. So, how to do that is when your body is settled, allow your body some stillness. And one of the ways to do that is to find a posture in your hands that feels nice and rested and at ease. My fingers are interlaced, but in an opposite interlacing, my fingers are pointing in toward my palms, and the tips of my thumbs are touching, and my hands are resting at the base of my navel. My shoulders are back. My heart is slightly lifted. My chin is parallel to the floor. My eyes are closed. Just notice where your body naturally wants to rest. And then place the tongue on the roof of your mouth just behind the front of your teeth. You can keep your lips closed and relaxed as you inhale through the nostrils. If you have a little bit of a cold and you can't breathe that way, go ahead and keep your mouth open, and you can still have your tongue resting on the roof of your mouth as you inhale through the mouth or the nostrils. And as we begin this gentle breathing practice, there's no need to extend or elongate the inhalation or even the exhalation. Just notice how your body naturally wants to breathe. I've often been encouraged to pick a place in my body and stay there. I'm either focused on my nostrils or I'm focused on my belly. And I've always struggled to focus on just one or the other. And that's what I notice that's real for my body. So I notice for my inhalation, I can easily focus on my nostrils. But on my exhalation, I like to bring my attention to my belly and the contraction there. And then I turn my gaze back up to my nostrils and then back down to my belly. This is an ebb and flow of breathing in my body and in my awareness. I invite you to determine for yourself what feels real and pleasant and joyful for you. And let's breathe together and create a little bit of quiet and stillness, enjoying the breath. Friends, for the month of March in the Spokane Sangha, we are exploring the noble path, the Four Noble Truths, that is, excuse me. And we're exploring the third noble truth. In traditional language, the third noble truth is there is an end to suffering. For the last 2 months, we have been taking that traditional language and shifting it a little bit to make it more inclusive, more all-encompassing. So the first noble truth is there is discomfort and there is comfort. The second noble truth is there are causes and conditions for what makes us uncomfortable and what makes us comfortable. The third noble truth is understanding those conditions with depth and awareness brings harmony and an end to the volleying that we experience of either we're in the state of discomfort or we're in the state of comfort. We're in the state of something bad or we're in the state of something good. We're in the state of chaos or we're in the state of calm. The third noble truth encourages us to become aware that that constant back and forth that can be rather jarring and abrupt has a subtle ease to it. We can end it if we want to, and we can experience this harmony, this sense of harmony. Now, when I was first practicing and first learning, I used to tell myself this story that reflected my ignorance of Buddhist practices and principles. And I say this very gently. You know, you don't know what you don't know. And because of that, there's this state of ignorance that drove my actions and my understanding. And so, very early on in my 20s, as I was practicing and learning, I used to think that the goal was to create the conditions in my life for a perpetual state of harmony, something that looked like a magazine cover of like mindfulness or yoga or meditation, where I'm sitting, in a lotus position underneath a beautifully blossoming cherry tree with maybe a little babbling brook by me, ever unfazed, always in this state of pure serenity, neither attached to anything negative nor attached to anything positive, never bewildered in my mind, always calm and easy, my mind not plagued with any thoughts whatsoever, good or bad, just nice and empty. Boy, was I ever in for it, because what a fiction for me. And as I matured in my practice, I began to realize that as someone who lives a life where I have a family, so I have lots of people in my life, I serve various communities, so I have lots of people in my life. There's going to be all kinds of conditions that arise and fall, challenging my state of serenity all day long, 24/7. And I could put a lot of pressure on myself to try to force this perpetual state of serenity. And even that would be a kind of folly. Because for me, the practice is learning how to ebb and flow, learning to be supple between these states of positive and negative. And to every once in a while, drip into the crack that defines the two, that separates the two, and just allow myself to flow into ease. It may last just a moment, a breath. It could last several moments. I have learned over the years not to be attached to the timing of this harmony or of this serenity, but to simply notice it and to become aware of it. So today I want to share with you an image of the yin yang. And here it is. And many of you are familiar with the yin yang. It represents the shadow and the light. And within our shadowed selves, there's always a little dot of light. And within our light selves, there's always a little dot of shadow. This is to represent and to remind us that as hard as we may try to put our lives in a dualistic context of something is either shadow or it's light, the Buddhist practice and the Eastern way of looking at things, the Eastern perspective is to remind us that in fact there's always both. Even when we're in the darkest times of our lives, if we're paying attention, there's a little bit of light. Maybe just a little ladybug that lands on our arm, or a little butterfly that flutters by that is vying for our attention, to look up and out of the shadow and see that there's something else happening. Likewise, when we're experiencing a blissful state, everything is going so well and we just want it to keep going. The nature of reality is impermanent, so there's always going to be something looming, something haunting, maybe even our own mind that's ready to sabotage the beauty of the moment. What I'd like to bring your attention to today is the line that divides the two. And this shape, by the way, this moving shape is designed to remind us that we are constantly ebbing and flowing like little fish, little partnered fish. But this line is still there. What is that line? For me, that line became a crack of possibility. And I like to spend a lot of time on this line. And I like to imagine a little drip of wisdom. And if you've ever watched a drip fall into a crack, you'll notice that the shape of the drip, that teardrop shape, is completely distorted. Once it hits that crack, it is diffused and spreads. So my wisdom spreads. The droplet along this defining crack of possibility spreads. And look at where it spreads. Look at my hand. It's held tight on that line, and then It spreads through the crack and opens. And so now my wisdom is part both negative and positive, both good and bad, both pleasant and unpleasant, both discomforting and comforting, and so on and so on. Harmony is that momentary space of awareness, at least for me, where I am able to hold in balance the good things in my life and the bad things in my life. And there are always both. It's when I get attached, it's when I fall into some kind of negative habit energy, my storytelling, my wrong views, my wrong perceptions of things, my defenses, my adolescent self that rises up and tries to protect me, that I tip the scales and I go into one space or the other. But because I can always employ these droplets of wisdom, I can add a little drop through that crack of possibility and bring the scales back into some kind of harmony, into some kind of balance. But it is always moving for me. Now, I could give up my life and go into retreat and have myself, all my needs cared for. Somebody will bring me food and I can sit and just meditate on arisings, thoughts, stories, feelings, sensations in the body. And I could experience longer moments of harmony. I could do that, but I don't want to. I like my householding life. I like being in the mess of it. I like the chaos. I like the stirring sometimes, even when I don't like it, even when I hate it and I resist it. I know that these experiences become the raw material, become the fodder for what's going to wake me up, peel away the distortions that I've been harboring, and help me see more clearly. And I'd like to share with you a very quick example. It happened just this morning. Somebody sent me an email, and there was a veiled threat in the email, somebody who's upset with an encounter, something that happened that I was involved in. And this person is feeling very upset and confused and bewildered and sad. And this person probably has no concept of Buddhism or little concept of Buddhism. That's a story I'm telling. I don't actually know. But based on the interaction via email, I concluded that. So somebody who isn't particularly practiced and therefore unskillful. And they were projecting those emotions, the grief, the sadness, the anger, the frustration, blaming me, holding me responsible. And it was really unpleasant. I'm not going to lie. Look at that. And I woke up this morning and I was having a lovely cup of coffee, all in the white side of the yin yang and lovely. And then this little dark shadow entered into my awareness. And I could feel myself getting super defensive, going dark. And I'm getting angry. And I could have been combative and defensive toward this individual, but I am a practitioner. And so I know what this person could benefit from is a little bit of modeling. And I certainly didn't need to allow this person's energy to drive the vehicle of my life. I did not have to make that choice. I did not have to acquiesce my agency. And so I stayed in the driver's seat of my life. And I created a very clear boundary with this individual, and I acknowledged their feelings, and I stayed true to myself. And I allowed my wisdom to be diffused, to honor the negative that I was feeling, the positive that I was feeling, and to stay in the center, to stay harmonized. So that even while I was feeling defensive and threatened, I could see where that was coming from. I could also see the source of my own defense and reactivity. I hate feeling like I'm going to get in trouble. It's such an insecure feeling. And I hate feeling accused of doing something wrong when I know I haven't. It's just not a fun feeling. And that's an old feeling, getting called to the principal's office, getting in trouble, being in detention. That's my adolescent self going, I didn't do anything wrong. And so I had to take care of her. This person wasn't going to take care of her. I had to take care of her and recognize we're not in trouble. This is someone who is not able right now to see the whole picture here. So the part that this person cannot see, doesn't want to see, is maybe grieving, is being projected onto you. My job as a practitioner is to keep my spiritual mirror nice and clean. So what I reflect back to this individual is pristine and kind, yet clear. It was a swirl, Here's my morning, so peaceful, having a cup of coffee, thinking about coming to Recovery Dharma and talking about the Yin Yang symbol and cracks of possibility and droplets of wisdom. It was so poetic and lovely. And then I get this email. Ah, oh, bummer. And there it is. That's my life, moving in and out, ebbing and flowing, not attaching to a fixed state of harmony, not putting pressure on myself that a fixed state of harmony is even possible given the conditions of my life and the choices I've made, which I don't regret. So my life has to move. I have to be constantly in and out of it. Comfort, discomfort, good and bad. All the while keeping my eye on that crack, the possibility of the wisdom dropping in there, spreading out, opening me up, keeping my eyes clear, breathing. So let's return now to the breath because that's what I had to do. Breathing in the misery of this individual. Breathing out my sense of peace and harmony. May it be his. Breathing in all the times that I've been uncomfortable and projected it, made other people defensive, hurt people's feelings, just like me. This guy, just like me. Breathing out the wisdom of harmony that is always available. Breathing in the clarity of these details so that they don't cling. I can put them down. Breathing in the clarity and the settled nature of my spacious mind and heart. Breathing out to keep my life harmonious and by extension to bring harmony into the lives of others. Breathing in the third noble truth. There is an end to suffering. There is access to harmony, serenity, and peace. Breathing out, and I can be its instrument. Breathing in, breathing out. So I just want to integrate one little nugget from today's practice. Actually, there are two. The first is to take to heart these teachings and make them come alive in you. Your life, your experiences, your karma, your history, your ancestry, your understanding. That's what the world needs. And it's such a thrill to see the way wisdom is breathed into life in each of us. I celebrate it so wholeheartedly. So while I'm here sharing how these Buddhist practices and principles come alive in me, I want to encourage the same for you. And the second thing is this sticker. Practice makes practice. We're just not going for perfect, people. We're just here to practice. Practice makes practice. So, with that, I'm just going to remind everybody that we've got a beautiful website that Lo just does such a great job with. There are lots of things on there. Please check it out. We've got various activities. Some of the things that we offer at Soul Center is another way of helping us underwrite the cost of having a physical space. And so we're so grateful when you come to our additional offerings, when you make donations. We are a penny pinching enterprise. And so we're so grateful. We're so grateful for all the things that people share with us, candles and incense and bookmarks and toilet paper and food and so on and so forth. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. There's a donation jar in the back of the room, and there's ways to make donations online. Check out the offerings. Remember the recordings. Feel free to share them. You can find us on YouTube and podcasts and various audio recordings on our website as well. Email me with any questions and concerns. And also, if you have anything that is disgruntling, feel free to email that too. I recognize sometimes the need to ventilate. Just be forewarned that you will be met with a beautiful balaclava, a really skilled boundary. And so you may not always like what you receive in return. And then the practice is, would you look at that, right? So anyway, friends, would love to hear from you if that calls to you. And just stay in touch. Meanwhile, we'll meet online tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Let's go ahead and end our practice today with a dedication of merit. Today we heard from a Sangha member quoting Thich Nhat Hanh, the great Thich Nhat Hanh. And I shared this quote from one of his books called Moments of Mindfulness. And this is the first moment of mindfulness he offers in this book. It is the foundation upon which we stand. And in fact, it's a foundational component to the third noble truth, what we've been exploring today and what we'll continue to explore for the month. Understanding is the foundation of love. When we can understand ourselves, the conditions that are constantly arising and falling, and when we even take the time to understand, even when we have just a droplet of curiosity to understand ourselves, we are actually activating self-love, self-acceptance. And so while we may be entertaining a distortion that says, yeah, I'm grinding to understand myself. I got to know why I do what I do. And it's just this effort and this labor and this work and that may be true. And the truth still is that our efforts to understand ourselves, no matter how we get there, is an act of love for ourselves and by extension for all living beings. I dedicate this practice today, this ebbing and flowing practice, to all living beings everywhere. May they find ways to ebb and flow with ease, filled with understanding and compassion. May they have access to the limitless nature of love. Thank you so much for your practice today, friends. We'll see you next time. Namaste.